I sent out this agenda this morning after people responded to requests for agenda items. Are there any further adjustments to the agenda? Anything else? Talk to speak. Okay, no citizens. We have one set of minutes to vote on, which I looked at this morning.
The only correction I would suggest is that instead of 5,000 cars a day, it's more like 3,000 cars a day.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
something we can
Should be
do.
like, that was the number I recall.
A traffic study showed that about 5,000 cars per
Yeah, I
day,
think it's more like
and
three.
it's more like 3,000. Okay,
When did they do the traffic study? They do it
Oh.
in the summer or in the fall or in the winter?
They did it in the summer.
That's probably why, because traffic is heavy in the summer.
I could see the number being bigger last week.
I don't really remember, Sonia. I shouldn't say they did it when they did it.
That's when there would be a definite difference.
There would be.
so does anybody have any other thoughts about the June meetings? Can we vote on entering those into the record? No.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor? Done. Meetings have been entered and we'll with one correction, and we'll look for July next month. Okay, thank you. Thank you for reading it there. We appreciate it very much. Chair report, the only thing I would add here is I wish Jan was here and we could talk about, well, Alec is here. We could talk about the food pantry gala, which went really well. And Waldo Theater had a gala event, Midsummer Night's Dream themed gala fundraiser event that was very successful over at Wanderwood.
Food Pantry had an event on Saturday night.
That's what I was just mentioning.
Very well attended and really nicely put together. Wow.
Super
great.
organized,
Great,
great
wasn't it?
food.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
And
Last
just,
year was good too.
yeah. No, Rebecca does a great, and Tito do a great job.
it's a really beautiful event. So I don't have a number on how much you all raised, but it
It'll
seems
be
like
about 20. We're about
20,000?
17 and a half now.
fantastic.
So, and Rebecca said she'd match whatever the difference was to get to 20,
Fantastic.
Wow.
but we should probably go over that.
You want to go into the food pantry stuff, you mean? What do you mean? You should go over that?
No. I would imagine that we'll get, up to 20,000.
Oh, go over 20.
Over, I think the event spurred some people on and they just haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, well, that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Um,
That was our target.
It's about what it costs to do the Miller School, isn't it?
Yeah.
if anybody wasn't at the downtown forum,
I wasn't.
the beginning of
I
July,
was out of town.
it was, in my view, a very successful event because a lot of people showed up. It was in a new venue, trying something out for the first time in the Waldo Theater. And, I don't know if anybody else wants to add. How did you think it went, Max?
I thought it was very good. We got, I think, 55 people there, so good attendance. Got a lot of talk going on in there of some ideas bouncing around. I think it was also just a learning curve.
That's why some of the questions I was asking.
Yeah, there were so many questions, but also the online recording capability. I'll just need to show up earlier next time, and I usually have some equipment as a backup, but I unfortunately didn't have it, and so we don't have a good recording on YouTube, unfortunately. But
Okay.
next time,
You did a terrific job.
and thank you, and I have the PowerPoint available if people do need to see it, and I'll have that online.
If you were to choose the 5 most significant questions people ask, just putting you on the spot here, Max. But thinking back, what would they have, and maybe not 5, maybe 2 or 3, but what would they have been? The ones that really elicited some ideas or some comments?
Questions, I don't really, or no, they were more, I'd say, comments that people were making. And it was just, again, I think there were some people who, a lot of people were coming in new. Some people didn't know, like, sprawl block. Can something be done on the sprawl block? Right, was an unfortunate thing we had to bring up again because it's under Section 8 housing, so I can't really touch too much on HUD. The other thing that was brought up was people just wanting a comprehensive parking plan. We brought up the Worcester parking lot. It's a pretty big change that we have. This will pretty much cover town updates anyways for .hat forum. Just a simple question. What are we trying to do with Worcester parking lot? We have some designs from UMO students that would happen years ago, but was the tree important? Are we trying to have more of a view of the river? And it did sort of turn into people saying more they want a comprehensive look at what's actually needed for parking. Because maybe we don't need to just try and cram 30 spaces at Worcester parking lot. Maybe we just need to consider what we have already available. And that's a valid point. And I would like to just, and that's why there's no downtown forum happening immediately. The plan is to do one more outreach to the businesses and the tenants that are in the downtown and see who uses it, who needs it, what the spaces look. Because I think I did it last year, and it looks like it would just be enough for the people who actually are working and living in the downtown, but I'd have to get some updated numbers.
But the other thing, I just want to finish this discussion of the downtown forum by saying I think it was an important first step at creating a space where people feel like they can be appraised of what's going on and get the whole picture rather than just little snapshots here and there on Facebook groups, and then
Yeah.
rumor starts. Are there signs coming? What's going on with this? What's going on at the movie pizza shop? You know, people
Yeah.
go through a lot of the same questions, and it's really great to just have an event where people can see each other, look at Max in the face on the stage and sort of get a bird's eye view of what's going on. And the other thing that you get from doing events like this that I was beginning to see is when people kind of get into the same space and then ask the same questions over and over again, and it always comes down to, well, Ted Wooster used to do it, and then he passed away, and then so-and-so did this, and they passed away. You start to realize that a lot of the things that you take for granted are really individual efforts. And things like this really help to consolidate these efforts and make sure that we can not necessarily institutionalize, but at least like make it clear that this is something that we want, and there's a place for you to step in and do it if you want to, or you can pass the baton in a more efficient way on a lot of these sort of civic tasks. So,
Yeah, it's a good session.
so we can maybe segue, or Bob,
Maybe this is too early. If it is, just tell me to shut up. Was there any discussion of the downtown master plan that was put together back in 2012, 13?
I did bring that up
You did.
early on when going over the timeline that there was the downtown master plan a decade ago, and slowly this is, at least from what I could gather, what's been happening. And there's some things in the downtown master plan that are sort of easy items that just never happened, like
Yeah.
the streetlight.
Right.
That was one of those things that was in it, and it just never happened until we did it one day, and we're already seeing the savings. There's some other items in there that are outdated or were kind of a bit more difficult to address. But I don't think there was anyone else bringing up the downtown master plan other than me.
Well, I was, Seth was.
You and Seth were?
Yeah.
It was a month ago. I can't remember all the details.
So what my hope is for the economic committee, which I'd like to lead, is to create a plan that goes from Route 1.
actually,
Main
wait,
Street.
Alec, I just want to, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to I want to address that directly. I just want to pivot first of all to
Okay,
for
right.
any other
Right.
town updates
Yep.
that Max has.
And I will quickly say on the downtown and what Alec will get into, that was another thing that was brought up. We shouldn't just be looking at the downtown. We should also be looking at the area around it, which is a good idea. And I think that's a good effort to spearhead. I do want to also just make sure that when I'm talking about a downtown project, I am trying to capture what's in the downtown and then the village and then outside. Like it is a multi-layer type thing. But yeah, in terms of other updates, quickly on the planning board, there is going to be a meeting this Thursday. There's one on a subdivision, nothing too exciting to talk about on there. There will also be an application for Dunkin' Donuts to move into the former Rockland Savings Bank. It's really just a change of use, walk-in cooler. They're taking away the ATM, they're putting in a drive-through, so
So what will happen in the old Dunkin' Donuts?
they don't own it, so they don't know.
Be way better for traffic.
Yeah.
Yep, that's so far the comments I've heard that, well, Dunkin' Donuts is moving there. That's gonna be better on traffic.
More parking already paid for the drive-through.
Yeah.
Nice looking building.
So this is the one on the corner, across from Hannaford's, is gonna move over to there.
Rockland Savings, yep.
Yeah, they're gonna have gas.
Where they're
Doesn't matter,
moving, the
doesn't matter.
Rockland Savings isn't gonna have a gas station. The gas station and the Dunkin' Donuts are having a little separation.
Yeah,
It's
the
not,
gas is
it's not
cheaper.
us, it's
Donuts
not
and
us,
gas are
it's
cheaper.
them.
It's a
Yeah.
velvet divorce.
It's a velvet divorce, that's.
Yeah.
Um,
No such thing.
Never
Not
mind.
at all.
and then potentially next month, I'll have Maine Health coming to the planning board for their medical arts facility application. I have the light map just over there if people want to take a look at it after the meeting. This is more on a grant item, but our congressional directed spending request for $306,000 has gone out of committee and it's seeking a Senate approval. That's going to help buy an ambulance for EMS. So that'll be great if that passes. Just need the federal government to pass budget on time. We've already talked about
Don't say that.
we've already talked about the downtown forum. The only other item I have are warrants. We were gonna try and get a Sylvania and a community center non-binding question going. But because of the time restraint we have, and because we want to have an actual big master plan to present to everyone on these, we figured it's best to maybe wait and hold off until either a special town meeting or maybe even June.
On the Sylvania spot, where are we with the food pantry in the northwest corner? Jan was talking, but responded to some of the selectmen's questions that we had.
Yeah, that,
So, but that's not good.
but I haven't gone to the select board meeting about following up from those food pantry comments yet.
Yeah, but Jan said we don't have to get permission from the board of selectmen to do a soil sample.
I don't know about that.
I don't know why we just don't go over there and get somebody to do a soil sample and figure out whether it's toxic or not.
That-
Then we can
Is
just,
this the group to figure that out?
I was about to say, this is probably more of a discussion that this is something that Julie and Jan and I have been trying to talk about, so,
okay, so I'll follow up with you later.
yeah. I am gonna have one warrant article item, and that is to propose, commercial property assessed clean energy ordinance in town. We do have a residential one, but the one that I'm proposing would be open for businesses to apply for it.
What does that do?
So it's something that the state legislature passed 2 years ago. And it's just an additional financing revenue stream for businesses. All that really happens is if a business is interested and the town had passed this ordinance, they'll contact Efficiency Maine, who has their different lenders and capital providers. And those providers would give the investment to those interested businesses. The only role the town really has is to put a lien on the property. That's about it.
Okay.
So it'd be a nice thing. There's maybe a dozen towns that have it passed since it was created a year or so ago, so, and the language is already written up and everything. It's just a matter of whether we pass it.
So, yeah, my interest in that was getting on the plan that goes before on November, that goes on the warrant. First to have a plan, like, for the Sylvania plan. We were talking about who was getting that finalized.
Oh, but it's not gonna happen on.
Right,
in
right.
November.
There's
They're not-
still.
right.
Yeah, so Sylvania and the community center, we were looking at master plans and then presenting it to the town and saying, this is our thought. But there's not enough time. The deadline is August 20th. There's not enough time to put all that together.
Oh, that's the deadline?
Yeah, so there's not enough time to put all that together.
Yeah.
But we'll probably try and aim for a special town meeting or the June warrant when we're doing the budget and everything.
Yeah, that takes the pressure off.
Yes. And then the only other item I had was broadband, which is the next topic, so I think I'm all set.
I'm not sure when this should be put into the meeting, but I've sent out an email out to all the department heads and to all the select board members. I have the dubious honor of being part of what's called the Legislative Policy Committee.
Hmm.
Get to 2 people from each Senate district.
Right.
Anyway, it's an MMA thing. And they do their thing every 2 years. They try to develop topics that are of legislative interest. So anybody has any ideas about how the legislature can help to improve municipalities function more efficiently, function better, I'd love to hear.
Just so I
That-
understand what's inbounds and out of bounds, do you have a good example of what such an initiative might be?
Well, LD 2003 was a municipal
Okay,
initiative. That kind of originated from the LBC.
Yeah.
Okay, for better or for worse.
I was about
Uh,
to say, I'm gonna hold back on that.
I
thought.
know, fair enough, fair enough. And, I mean, that's an extreme example. When you're looking at some of the EMS regulations or fire regulations, the legislature can be asked to weigh in, or the MMALBC can actually write a bill and get someone to sponsor it.
What does MMA stand for?
And Maine Municipal Association. The town belongs, every town
Yeah.
in Maine, I think, belongs to
what is the timeline on,
August 15th. Thanks for asking.
okay, August 15th,
Yeah.
when you need to submit ideas?
Yeah,
Tax reform,
sorry.
tax reform. Property tax.
Yeah,
What's
Yeah,
needed? Protection for people on fixed incomes with these rising incomes,
okay,
things like that.
Yep.
So town keeping more of their money versus then they should separate school tax from property tax. Do something like that, looking at, because the price, it's getting too expensive.
mhm,
Looking into that, and what was the other one? Well, it's like, if they did tax reform. It would be like, instead of pricing every window and every chimney and every little plus you have on the house. There should be a standard property grouping. You can have a porch, you can have 2 chimneys, you can have this. And that's one rate. And then anything extra goes up from there. Because it's a big burden. If you put solar panels on your house, there goes the value of your house and your taxes go up. There's, you know,
sorry.
Yeah, I
Can
thought
you make an
solar,
adjustment for solar?
thought solar was already exempt.
It's like when I did my property taxes, there was a whole line where they.
Yeah, there is.
But I didn't put 2 panels on. I
But to
put,
go back to Sonia's main point,
well, when they assess the value of your home, because the solar goes into that value. You
yeah,
may
well-
be able to deduct for it for certain reasons, but that's not a benefit to everybody else.
Well, anyways, I don't wanna
Yeah.
get too much into the weeds on this thing.
I'm just-
no,
Great
that's
specific
what I'm-
topics of tax reform is well taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
And there's, to your point, and what I've brought up in the past is, if there was a clearer way that if people were creating workforce housing, could they take that as a deduction onto property taxes? That would be something that I've always been interested in. Now, some people feel that that favors only the more well off, but I think we should be incentivizing workforce housing however we can. That's my view.
And something else that came up during one of the meetings we had earlier, Julie brought this up. We had talked about a camper ordinance.
Right. Yes.
Very
Uh,
frustrating, but let me.
I'm not
let me
getting into
dwell on
this.
That,
Yeah.
the part of the issue is that people who end up in campers are people who were in subsidized housing and can't get back in.
Right.
Because either they didn't keep current on their rent, or they may have behavioral issues.
Yeah.
Have the laws written in a way that makes it impossible for these people unless they have recommendations from somebody. Am I right, Max? To get back in.
They're
And
excluded.
that's something the legislature ought to, I'm not sure. That's a tough one to address, but it is something that needs to be talked about.
Okay, so August
right, thank
15th
you.
is, what is this called? It's Legislative Policy.
Legislative Policy Committee,
Committee.
LPC,
And the deadline was one more.
August 15th.
Okay, so we are moving now to fiber grant update. Ruben,
So, this is pretty good news, good news. The official MCA vote happens this coming Friday. Last week, I was lucky enough to attend a meeting where they went over the 3 grants that were submitted, the 3 Penn grant requests, and how they were scored. Lincoln County's grant came in first out of 3. Second place was Walton, the third place was China. Waldo, their grant's already going through because it's under 5 million. Lincoln County is going to receive a grant of 6 million, which they have to vote on Friday. What that gets us, if for our $316,000 is, in Lincoln County, that 6 million covers the homes that don't have any connectivity. And then CCI is spending another 21 million of their own money to repair everybody else. So that should be the end of that topic for us when it's done by the end of 2025.
Does that include private roads?
If they have a copper phone line, they're getting fiber.
Okay,
This is one of those your mileage may vary things. We'll know when they're done, but the intent is to replace copper with fiber in those areas, as far as I understand it. Copper is expensive to run. Prices on copper phone lines are going up. One of the advantages to companies doing things like Consolidated is doing, they own the communications network on copper in the towns this grant went out to. So they get to replace that old infrastructure with something newer that costs less to operate, that people will pay less for access to.
Brilliant. I got it on my calendar. August 9th.
I can send out, I'll do two things. I forwarded a link to Bob, because whenever I'm excited, I email. That's what happens. There was a link in that video, or there was a link to a video you couldn't
I
download.
couldn't download.
It's public information, and I found
Oh,
out,
just go to the web.
well, I downloaded the video. I'm gonna upload it to YouTube. They said that's okay.
Oh, okay.
And when I upload it to YouTube, I'm gonna turn on the automatic note taking. And you should be able just to get a brief text description of what they went over if you don't want to watch the whole thing.
Right.
That thing was one of the first things that happened in the meeting. So you don't have to watch it for very long. But yeah, the reason it's got to go to vote on Friday, I think if it's over 5 million, a larger board from the MCA has to approve it.
Is there more competition at that level?
No, there isn't any. We're done. The competition was the other grants we applied to. 6 or 7 places submitted grants.
Yeah.
3 were accepted. Ours had, well, by ours, I mean Lincoln County, had the best price to performance. They looked for, the best match and everything. CCI was very careful when they set those numbers up, CCI being consolidated. And then the last part was every town had someone doing that engagement. That's the stuff with Facebook. That's the stuff Rebecca let us post and share, having these meetings and talking about it.
Yeah.
So we scored really, really well.
That's really great to hear. So essentially, nothing is going to stop. I mean, there's no reason why this wouldn't be approved
No,
at this point.
No.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Thank you.
no problem.
Anne is not here, so I'll talk to her separately about the website, but she has access to the tool, right? She can build pages herself.
I suppose so.
That was the last I heard.
Yeah.
The RFP for a designer for signage has gone out. So they released 3 folks who are interested in that, and next month we should be able to look at those candidates and make a decision about a designer for the gateway signs, and that will also link to any future signage that we do.
Was Madamic Design one of the interested parties?
Yes, they've been in discussion with Julie so far. Yeah. So that's where we are.
Madamic Design, Brian and Amanda Schwitzker,
They just did the website for the business association.
and they did the logo for the 250th anniversary celebration.
Right. So there's where we are.
Like a concept sketch or something that we could see.
Well, we're not there yet. The point right now is we want to just identify our designer, and then we can start a conversation with that person
Oh,
or people. And I think those conversations are going to have to be really strategic, because we want to make sure that they have room to design, and we need to be really clear about what we do and don't want to see without meddling too much. Jan is not here. Do you know the food pantry statistics, or do you want to add anything about the food pantry?
I don't, other than, we're doing pretty well, and, I don't know.
Okay.
Otherwise, we had a great event. Brought in some money. And, we're gonna be, asking some businesses for money too. has made the chair of the fundraising committee, so replacing Jan in that capacity.
Ah, okay.
Actually, Jan's not on the committee.
Good.
He's not on the fundraising.
Okay.
Anyway,
Good to know. All right, so now let's pivot over to new business. Alec, you had an idea about a subcommittee.
yeah, I really think that the project that we get a real bang out of our buck for would be to take the Worcester lot and Main Street all the way up to Route 1 and focus on Route 1, how we can exit to the village more easily with signage and also with the
Route 1 going
north
west, north.
or north.
It goes
Warren.
east and west,
Northeast.
actually.
To Warren.
Northeast. Yeah, coming out, when you're coming up past Collision.
Yeah.
Auto, and then, then you have that button hook right down Main Street. And so that spot right there can be much more attractive and accommodating and alluring for folks to go to the village. And for us to develop business in the village, we really need to have it look a lot nicer.
Yeah, so you mean going Route 1 north into the village, not the
Right.
other way?
If south is really nice. From
And
Moody's
go-
down one
Yeah.
way.
There's like 3 entrances to the village. Are you talking by Moody's or are you talking down the
I'm talking about,
bottom of the hill?
I'm talking
across
about
from town?
Route 1, by the.
Coming from Dan Riscotta.
Well, they don't come,
Okay.
yeah, but when there's Hannaford's to turn in. By
I'm talking
Miller
about, I'm talking
School,
about a
No,
mile, a mile
you're just
ahead.
talking about Route 1 itself.
I'm talking about Route 1 and 1A.
So
Which is Main
Sonia, he's talking about if you're coming from Damascotta and then you turn right where that park and ride is. And come
Okay, I
down
know
Main
that
Street.
one.
That's what he's
Okay.
talking
That's
about.
what I'm talking about. That, and then down at the Worcester lot, and then in between, you just clean up. So when people come drive in that way, I mean, it's really appealing. And the river, you can't see, and it's beautiful. Damascotta has around their parking lot, it's a collar of benches, which is, people sit there all the time.
Yeah.
Looking out of the river. I see that, and we already have, some pretty good plans to start working off of from before. So that's what I'd like to focus on. Us to focus on.
So- Max, do you have any thoughts about like what we could or couldn't do as a committee or a subcommittee? Just so we're not spinning our wheels and wasting time, like how can we be effective if this is the kind of initiatives that we want to think about
Yeah, good question.
strategically?
So I guess it's. The end goal is always the thing that's a question, and it's. What can you do to get to that end goal? So. Let's talk like housing, creating more housing through accessory dwelling units. If the goal was making at least 50 more, how do we get to getting 50 more units? Or you're saying, let's make the area between, I'm saying town forest and Worcester parking lot more attractive.
Yeah.
What's attractive in this case? Trying to see the river? Well, there's gonna be a geographical issue to that. Is it trying to speak with,
I'm not sure about the geographical issue. Keep going.
but is it a matter of speaking with the people who are along that strip of Main Street to make some facade improvements? Is it like, what are we going to do? What's the town going to try and do to beautify
Justify it.
beautify that area as you have it in here, beautification? What's the subcommittee going to try and do through the research? What are they trying to find to do?
Create a plan that we can eventually be voted on and done.
But is
The
the
grants money and stuff like that.
But is the plan going to be zoning focused? Is it working with the private landowners so that they'll do something along travel right of way?
Well, it's first of all, working with the town in the different areas that you have jurisdiction of.
Okay,
I mean, and that would be the Worcester lot and up by the forest, right?
right.
That's the town.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, the general concept is if you make Waldeboro a more attractive place to go, and in particular the Worcester lot that detracts rather than attracts,
Right.
and it can be attractive, and you can see the river from there and
Yeah.
different places.
Yeah.
That businesses will want to come and be there,
Okay.
definitely.
I think the lot's a
Um,
really good
and-
starting place.
And that whole backside of that row on like of those buildings along Friendship Street. Kate's Cake was back there. I mean, there are other businesses that can be brought up in the back too. Anyway, I just. It's an asset and we're not using.
Yeah, I agree on the Worcester parking lot and trying to have more of a plan on that and what to do with that. I'm just trying to think on the scope a little bit more. You're saying from the town forest on Route 1 all the way to Worcester parking lot. But a good chunk of what you just talked about there was more Worcester parking lot focused, or even just between arguably just Cider Hill and Worcester parking lot. And that's fine.
Why not the forest too?
Well, actually, one
That
thing.
area. I mean, I
The
mean.
gateway
so-
sign we're talking about is gonna go.
It's the
there.
whole, it's the same topic, it's the same objective we're trying to achieve. By attracting people to have the infrastructure that's pleasant enough looking and accommodating for cars. And people to feel comfortable, and businesses to get established because people are going there, because it's a nice place to go, that's how you get it. Waldo is bringing people in by the droves.
Yeah.
Perch is bringing people in by the droves, the parking, you know, we got a lot of assets we're working with and the area around it's not big enough. Really needs to get picked up.
So I just want to insert here that the thing that keeps coming up over and over again from people of every stripe is what's wrong with these slummy businesses like Benny's, Movie Pizza Shop, the space that you just identified, which where Katie's Cakes used to be behind that Friendship Street block. And so on, all these places that are saying empty or underused, and these are all private individuals who are not living here. Who have no interest in the future of this town.
Yeah, I think what Max is talking about, if I could just, you're talking about where does a project like this fit into the municipal organizational and management structure? Is this everything that starts with the Economic Development Committee? I mean, this is the first time I've been on a municipal committee. Sort of these ideas generate, what are we supposed to do? I mean, if we're supposed to develop the economy for Walpole. This is a step.
Well, there are things that the city can do, zoning stuff.
Yeah.
Sidewalks can be,
Yeah.
that's within
What I'm
the,
talking about is all pretty much so municipal property.
but I mean, even beyond that, if you're talking about a stretch of road, I mean, that a sidewalk is something that a city can do, that costs money.
Right,
I'm really thinking about just some weed whacking.
but
Also, that,
I'll comment, but I see Sonia's hand up too. Sonia, did you have something to say?
Well, let me segue into what I was gonna talk about, because, for you, just to shorten it up, my brain is seeing. You can do something about that parking lot in the town forest with some signs and put a fence up or something. And then invite them into Waldeboro, you can say Waldeboro. Public landing this way or something like that, but if you're going down that road, those are residential homes mostly that people own.
Yeah,
But when
And-
you hit the flashing light, there's a sidewalk and you have a store there, and I actually was,
release.
yep, going down. And I was like, even the Cider Hill, I actually drove in there to find out what's disc golf.
Yeah.
And stuff, it's $5 a round and it's just like playing 18 holes and they've got different kinds of things, and I was going. This would be nice if we could pull this into the activities of the town. Like, and people have been talking about not having access, it's like Thomaston has a street museum. Okay, and it's like their historic buildings are identified and it's like a walking tour you take through the town. Okay, so we could have something like that, but also combine it with some kind of exercise trail. And we're talking steep hills, we could say 20 steps to such
Yeah.
and such.
that's a good idea.
50 steps this way to disc golf, enjoy so much around, that kind of a thing. get people exercising and it directs them to different places in the town, the Waldo Theater. And you're using what's already existing, because you have up and down sidewalks, like going to the post office and back. But if you go up further, you're at the Historical Society.
Right.
And then like, then Moody's Hotel, come see a 1950 hotel room,
Yeah, right.
that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah,
But
and
in a lot of this stuff, the sidewalks exist.
Mhm.
And stuff, but they're, just some kind of directional, you were saying you were doing the signs, it's something like that.
Right.
And that gets people knowing what it is, and you pull in the further outs also, because the town is centered in one area, and I live at the Outlanders, I live over on Fintown, so it's, I don't
Yeah.
get into town.
So actually,
Stuff, and
so-
other people, yeah, but anyway,
So
so
you-
what you,
And what I'm hearing from you is what we've been talking about, which is if we do these two gateway signs as the beginning of a more comprehensive signage plan, which includes very coherent signs for parking this way, directional signs, as you're pointing out, Sonia, or like living museum signs even could ultimately be part of that. I think it seems to be like what a lot of people agree is something that the town can do and should do in the next several years.
yeah, if you're gonna have people visiting, because you don't have anything right now that would bring anybody into town, honestly.
and
Except what people know is in the town.
and
That's what I'm not using a lot.
But-
Yeah, and you have to remember you'd be competing with Rockland, Camden, Darmstadt, and Darmstadt has got it together, that type of thing. So we have to have our own. I would say when you're starting, just think small. Don't go overreaching.
well, and that's
stuff.
kind of what I was getting at when we talked about the subcommittee and everything, because a lot from what I heard was what the town can do at the Worcester parking lot and at the town forest. At those are the two town lots that you're talking about right there. Between that,
Yeah.
there's, is it a zoning thing? Is it a,
Let's forget about the between.
yeah, and that's what I'm
Forget
getting,
about the
if we're,
between.
okay,
Forget about.
okay.
Well-
So really the two.
Well, just to go back to your point, I mean, when do we get to the point of actually designing Worcester concrete?
Actually having a design for it.
Yeah.
There was a hope that there would be a little bit more for people to talk about Worcester at the downtown forum. And there was already some people talking about, well, should we have the deck that goes behind it to get more businesses down there? Well, that is a good idea. Are the businesses and the people who own those buildings interested in that idea as well? And then we gotta get the price for that. That's gonna be that probably will be a big expense. And who's gonna maintain it? Who's going to be liable if, I'm accessing it through where Katie's Cakes was, but then I trip where the Cabot's are? Who's responsible if that person wants to sue? That type of stuff. All those tiny little details. But seeing if that's something people even want to see at the Worcester Park Lot. I know that's what some people were saying at the forum they were at, but maybe people want to see the boardwalk idea more closer to overhanging where the green space is,
Right.
closer to where the utility district is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's why I want to hear more people, and hopefully we'll have a second downtown forum saying this was what was talked about last time. Have a little more notice on that, and then following up from. I talked with the businesses. This is what they heard. This is what was said at the first downtown forum. This is what the businesses have been saying about that idea. And go from there.
So Alec, would you be interested then in like kind of helping to
Yeah, head it up.
coordinate between Max and
Yeah.
and people in the village, business owners and so on? If there's a place for that, Max.
Mhm.
Just helping move that forward, because as Max just pointed out, it's a lot of steps between here and the final
Oh,
plan
yeah,
for
I get
Worcester.
Yeah, it's just a concept. This stage.
Another question I have actually around this question of that stretch from the town forest down to Worcester lot is, the memorial park.
Yeah.
Oh,
Three that the town owns. Never mind.
right, the memorial, that's actually a good opportunity, because the memorial park has some beautiful trees and there's the monument there. But there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done. I mean, the granite,
Where's the memorial?
that's just on the other side of the river.
It's on the corner. On the left. heading
Like
up.
if you're going to the Pine Street landing.
That one where there's that iron fence and there's weeds and stuff in between buildings. I thought that was part of it. I don't know where the memorial
Yeah,
park
It's out
is
in the corner of Main Street.
on Main
Yeah,
Street.
it's a kind of a triangle where Pine Street's going up this way and then it forms a funny little triangle.
So is that where that, what looks like a bank building and that square of land in there?
It's just a little monument. It's a
Yeah.
war memorial with these two big juniper
It's on the
or
other side
cedar
of the
trees.
riverside.
Okay, on the other, okay, I'll look for it. I'll look
Yeah.
for it. Haven't seen that yet.
It's funny because we've been driving through and no one even knows that it's there. I mean, it can be a pretty little.
It's hardly
park.
recognizable as a park.
It's hardly recognizable as a park. You
It
put it
is.
in plain language.
Yeah.
And that's my point.
Yeah,
I don't know
Well, that
what,
would get cleaned up too.
well, but that's what we're talking about.
That's on the
So-
way, that's on
So
the
what would be
right.
the cost of cleaning up that park? That's a very concrete thing that the town can consider. To get the,
Get volunteers.
well, but there's some things that, sure, volunteers could do some of this. Public Works might be able to, because there are granite steps that go up the hill and they've all collapsed. And you just have to dig it all out and you gotta, that's a cost. That's a project that would cost, I don't know how much. More than I would want to think that it would cost, I'm sure, to do it properly. But that's something that can be done. There are granite steps that can be put back in place. So is that something that would interest you too, in thinking about like,
That would be all part of it.
Yeah.
If it's between Main Street
I
and,
don't want to put words in your mouth, Alex, but the idea is to connect,
yeah,
is to have a connector
Yeah.
and a theme, maybe it's
And-
just a sidewalk.
Well,
Maybe it's getting exercise, but from the town forest down that hill, I'd say along the right-hand side.
yeah,
There's
And
some
on the left.
baseball fields too.
That's right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there that,
yeah, no, and that's kind of what I was getting at when saying. Between town forest and Worcester parking lot, there's a lot of area we're covering here. And. Hearing a lot on this is how we improve the Worcester parking lot to get more people down there. Okay, well, that's Worcester parking lot, and then we have the signs up at the town forest to try and get people. At those two spots, but in between, Sonia's bringing up the. The museum of streets.
Yeah, well, that was just,
That's an idea. That's a good concept that does get the two connected. If it is a sidewalk or a bike path or something that encourages more people to go and go up and down that stretch. That's another possible idea. That's kind of what I was getting at when saying, what's gonna be this theme to connect it? And maybe that's the question the subcommittee answers. What theme connects the two between each other? The town forest, we know how we're gonna get that endpoint done. Worcester parking lot, we'll know how we get that endpoint done. That's two separate things. But connecting the two, what's the theme that's gonna connect them? I think that's what the subcommittee answers.
I don't think that's the key answer. for
I agree with Max. I think you need to have an idea to push the connection,
Yeah, you gotta have the two
to
ends.
justify
You
it.
gotta have the two ends and then you connect.
But it's gotta be more than that. There's gotta be an underlying concept.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
certainly think a bike trail would be awesome.
Mhm.
That would be a real challenge because, that's a big hill.
It's a great hill to walk
It's a
up and
great-
down.
Yeah. It's all one way, you
Yeah.
go shoot down that hill.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah, that was,
I would be all
Connection.
for
Right,
that.
so get more utility out of what we do.
I don't know, you might wanna do something with the town forest to put the bike trail in there and keep the bikes off the road.
No, but that's what we're saying is you have a bike path to the side of the road, you keep them off the road.
Yeah, and you
Right.
can
They
get
don't
up to
stay
the
off
town
the
forest.
road.
Yeah, I
Do
get it.
not stay off. the
But they
road.
don't have a bike path.
But-
What I'm saying is if they have a
But they're
totally.
supposed to keep to the left.
yeah, but,
No, but that's
but
not a
anyways,
bike path.
Well,
but-
yeah.
when I said bike path, that was more of just. One of many things. Bob brought up a sidewalk. I said a bike path. Someone probably will talk about. I don't know, an ATV that goes right along the side. Who knows?
I don't know, good
Well-
place to start is list what we have.
Yeah.
For parks, so we've come up with the new Memorial Park, we've got that, and we've got, there's the park across from the Hannafords that could be developed a little more. We have the public landing, which is kind of rudimentary,
Oh,
they've got a little signage about the shipbuilding industry, but that's it. Doesn't look like there's, like if you go to South Thomaston, the Gig River, you can still see the iron rails.
Mhm.
From the dry docks, from the shipbuilding that they did down there and stuff. So there's different things, but that's a pretty walk in there and that road's very pretty. They could decorate that up a little more too and make it more prominent, say. Public planning, people can picnic down there. I'd get rid of those porta toilets. Maybe put in a real flushing toilet, but
Yeah. So, so there's a lot
personally,
of,
those were disgusting.
a lot of ideas floating
Yeah,
around.
but-
Yeah.
But I think what I want to take away from this is that if we're thinking about that entrance from the town forest down. Bob and Max suggested connecting those. A bike trail would be an obvious way, a separate road. Then you also have municipal property, there's that memorial park that's along the way, and you have Worcester down kind of at the end. So
Maybe you rezone a little bit on that right-hand side going up the hill. I don't know what that zoning is now, Max, but. You might rezone it, and encourage something to happen there. It's difficult to
think-
build on anyway.
I
Yeah.
think it's. Well, yeah, and it's Route 1B. It pretty much is anything can happen there. And the difficulty are the wetlands and the contour lines, like. There's
Yeah.
not too much you can do for
Not very
development
attractive
there.
to build on.
And that might be the thing. It would be a big outreach to the private owners, but to try and encourage, I think it's like 4 or 5 really. Try and encourage to see if they're willing to sell a little bit of the land so that we can make that type of extension for bike or sidewalk or whatever little extension we want to get.
you know, the reason that I think that I'm excited about that notion is it'd be a lot easier to build a bike trail there than on Friendship Road.
Yeah,
And the other thing I forgot and should have brought in mind is that we're also talking about a strip that DOT is involved in. So when we are talking about improvements to that road or doing anything on there, if we're going through that travel driveway, we gotta get DOT involved.
Okay.
Which isn't a bad thing in this case, because they have the village partnership program.
Yeah.
Which is getting us the speed tables. And once the speed tables are done, this can be the next project that's funded.
So
So there's possibilities.
there's possibilities. So yeah, let's table that. Like, my question to the group though is. Because there's so few members, do we really need to think about a subcommittee in this case, or is this just gonna be something that we can talk about, Alec, you can kind of,
Well, somebody has to do the legwork on research and stuff, which I'll do. And if I need somebody to help me, I'll speak up.
thank you.
But come up with a draft concept. And then we can all kick it around.
That sounds like a plan. This is a little bit random, but it might be vaguely related. If the town really wanted to make a priority of building that pedestrian bridge over to the park across from Hannaford. What would be involved in that? What priority would that be?
Um,
How would you even go about gauging with whether it's something to do now or 10 years?
the big thing that if that's something that's desired is to speak to the 2 landowners who are at the end of Elm Street.
Okay.
Because one of them would have to let people walk across their property. Like, we have the access and everything, but once you cross Elm Street, it's privately owned at that point. One of those 2 people would have to concede their area to letting that bridge be built.
Okay, okay. Does everybody know what I'm referring to?
I can show a map
there
after the
used to
meeting.
be a bridge.
There used to be a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You know, that place floods pretty bad though too sometimes.
More by the trailer.
It
park.
flooded this last spring.
Yeah,
really
it was-
bad.
I was gonna say, I know where the flooding, yeah, the flooding does happen around there, but it is more of connecting that pond that's at the trailer park across the 32, but I do know what you're talking about there.
Okay, so let's table all this. Sonia, did you have some other ideas that you wanted to discuss?
No, just that, you know, just using the assets we have type of thing, cause I was seeing some of the prices for the Sylvania Park, and I said, this is a poor town, people don't have that kind of money, you know, we really don't.
Well, we have.
And I don't know any people that wanna play
Wait a
pickleball.
second.
I don't know
Wait,
offense,
wait.
but you know,
I know, let her,
Well, I do.
Yeah.
I know lots of people who like. to
well,
play.
good, I'm not into physical fitness, I play tennis, but we have tennis courts at the top of the hill where they're putting in the senior housing type stuff. We might wanna look at limiting how much, cause if there are those section 8 houses that you're putting in, you can't do anything around them, so you should be more aware of that for long range planning with the town, cause you
What
can't do
Section 8
anything with
housing?
the spool box, cause you says that they can't do anything the way way it looks, right? Is that
Right.
what you just said earlier?
yeah,
So what's gonna happen with that housing up at the top of the hill, the 80 gray school housing?
that's not section
That's
8
not
housing.
Section 8.
That's just regular housing?
That's
Okay.
that's for seniors, but yeah,
Okay, but yeah, so, but part of that, there's tennis courts over there, and then there's
Those were
big
removed.
parks there.
Those
Those
were
were removed. Wow.
because they were all,
Disrepair for.
Oh, okay.
yeah, those tennis courts were so far gone that we had some people who built tennis courts show up and say, you're doing them from scratch anyways, you might as well just take them out at this point.
It was a whole separate effort, wasn't it, to get that grant back for some other thing?
Yeah, and that's where it ties into Sylvania, where the whole, I guess this was the other thing I kind of forgot to bring up in the town updates with Sylvania. I've talked with the person who runs the Land Water Conservation Fund, which funded those tennis courts. To get us back in good standing, what we can do is have part of the Sylvania site fixed up and used for recreation to put us back in good standing. Then we can get our grants so that we can fund at least half the project for the Sylvania site. And then by that time, we'll hopefully have the TIF district back in stock so that we can pay for the other half. And I'm only saying that because the TIF is funded the broadband project, which,
Oh, and I have no issue with that. No, that weird look was me attempting to have an idea, except for some cases. I wonder, and not for now, you're super busy, but I think a visual flow chart of how some of these things work. Just step one results, step two results, these things that you describe, like, as you say them, I get how that cascade works. This time tomorrow, other than watching this meeting, I'm gonna forget some of that, so when we go over it, these things get kind of complicated, right?
Really?
So I think having that visually might put some people at ease and might save you time re-explaining, because I know we had to
Yeah.
repeat a lot of the same things.
well, and my boss with the Midcoast Council of Governments has a better way of sort of framing a lot of these big projects that we keep talking about. Because for a lot of people, it's, I want this done tomorrow, I want this done next year.
Yep.
That doesn't work that way. He calls it the 5-3-1 model, where 5 years out, you're talking about it, you're getting the vision for everything all set. 3 years out, you are identifying all the funding sources, and then 1 year out, you have the funding sources and are ready for the project next year. That's the mindset we need to have, and unfortunately, people keep saying, well, let's just rush and get something done right now. Well, that doesn't work, because when we rush it, we fail when that grant's available.
Yep.
Because we don't have a plan in place. And that's what's gonna happen with Sylvania, and that's what's gonna happen with the community center. Although I know people aren't gonna like that I'm saying that. The community center is probably gonna be 5 years out, maybe 2030.
I'll take truth over comfort. I'd rather see us than can't happen.
Yeah.
It's good at setting expectations. So basically what you're saying is with Sylvania, we're at the 5 stage.
I'd say we're at the 5 stage. We're planning things out. We don't have the master plan done yet. We're hoping we'll have that done. Hopefully as we enter 2025. And I don't think we have to wait until 2030 for Sylvania to be fixed up. But I'm also not saying we're gonna have it all done in 2026 and have this massive jump. We want to get the grant funding, and we want to try and minimize however much is going to come from the taxpayers. And when the TIF's back fully stocked, that can help pay for the project, because it's paying for the parking lot, it's paying for recreational trails to help attract more people. We may not have to go to the general fund and to the general taxpayer if we just are smart about how we get these funding sources.
So on that
Rant.
note, maybe actually, I just kind of want to end, this is my comment from the committee by saying, I know that all this discussion about fiber has seemed abstract at times, and people have questioned why we would put our money there. I guess I would just say, if this goes through, this is probably one of the single biggest things that we could possibly do to attract economic development in
Right.
the area. Not just
Exactly.
remote workers
No
looking to
question.
move here, but businesses, brick and mortar stores.
And it's key
It's
for education
it's
as well.
absolutely key for
Absolutely
all of
key.
these things.
Great job.
I'm
So,
looking forward to moving on to the next problem.
Yeah.
Internet.
So I guess that's what I was
Talking about
creating. Is that
research.
to give anything
Oh, yeah.
else?
Yeah.
Longer.
okay, guys, thank you for your time.